Elder Tay stood alone on the observation deck of the High Spire, the tallest structure in the Avari capital city of Kithal. His forearms gripped the railing as he stared at the night sky, mandibles clicking in a rhythm that signaled deep distress to any of his kind who might hear. The 6 moons of their world cast pale light across the once bustling city below, now eerily quiet as the plague claimed more victims each day. The Elder's carapace, once a vibrant blue-green, had dulled with age and worry. For 3 full cycles, what humans would call weeks, their most powerful quantum beacons had sent desperate pleas for help across the stars. The same stars that now seemed cold and distant, offering no comfort. 3 cycles, Tay whispered, to himself. 3 cycles of silence. The plague had first appeared in the southern regions, a mysterious illness that turned their people brittle and hollow before claiming their lives. At first, they believed it was a natural disaster, something their advanced medicine could handle. But it spread too quickly, adapted too perfectly to Avari biology. Their scientists now suspected something far worse than bad luck. Below in the city, emergency lights pulsed as medical teams rushed between hive structures. The sound of distress calls echoed through the normally harmonious city. The Avari had always lived in careful balance, with nature, with technology, with each other. Now that balance was collapsing. Tay closed his compound eyes briefly. The Galactic Confederation had seemed so promising when the Avari joined 300 cycles. Thargo, the alliance of 37 spacefaring species, had welcomed the Avari's rich mineral resources and their biological sciences. Trade had flourished. The Avari had faithfully contributed to Confederation projects, offered their unique skills, shared their knowledge. Yet when the plague began and they called for help, the Confederation's response had been swift, not with aid but with quarantine. All ships were forbidden from approaching Avari space. All communication channels were formally closed. Their supposed allies had sealed them off to die. They fear contamination more than they value our lives, Tay had told the Avari High Council when the news came. We are expendable to them. The soft hiss of the lift doors opening interrupted his dark thoughts. Tay turned to see his assistant G approaching, her lighter exoskeleton marking her youth. She moved with the careful precision typical of their kind, but there was an unusual urgency in her steps. Elder, G said, her voice subdued as she lowered her head in respect. I bring news from the communications center. More settlements. Have gone dark? Tay asked, already knowing the answer. Each day brought reports of more communities falling silent as the plague overwhelmed them. Yes, Elder. The northern settlement of Vishitak no longer responds to signals. That makes 17. Pager populations lost. G's antennae drooped in shared sorrow. But there is something else. Tay noticed a strange vibration in G's voice, something he had not heard in many days. A note of hope. We have received a signal, G continued, her compound eyes widening to take in more light, a sign of excitement among their kind. It's not from the Confederation. It's from a different source entirely. Tay's own antennae straightened with sudden attention. Who would contact us through the quarantine? The penalties from the Confederation would be severe. It's from Earth, Elder. Earth? Tay's mandibles clicked rapidly in surprise. His mind raced through his knowledge of galactic politics. The quarantined world, the humans? Earth had its own troubled history with the Galactic Confederation. Their application for membership had been firmly rejected 50 cycles ago. The sea. Confederation had declared humans too unpredictable, too aggressive, too individualistically minded to join galactic society. Earth had been placed under its own form of quarantine, allowed only limited contact with other worlds. Yes, Elder, they say they've been monitoring communications and detected our distress signals. G stepped closer, her voice dropping. They say the Confederation is blocking our signals to most worlds, but Earth's monitoring stations caught them. And what do these humans want? Tay asked cautiously. In their desperate state, false hope could be more devastating than no hope at all. G's mandibles formed the shape that approximated a smile in their species. They say they're coming to help. They've already launched a ship. They say they have medical specialists aboard. Tay turned back to the stars, his mind reeling. Why would humans help us when our own allies have abandoned us to die? The message included one more thing, G added. The human captain sent this. We know what it means to be abandoned by the galaxy. You are not alone anymore. For the first time in many cycles, Elder Tay felt something stir within his thorax, a dangerous feeling in such desperate times. Hope. The memory still burned fresh in humanity's collective consciousness. 50 years earlier, Ambassador Sung had journeyed across 17 light-years to the massive space station known as the Confluence. There, the Galactic Confederation Council gathered in their grand circular chamber, representatives from 37 spacefaring species seated in rising tiers like a massive amphitheater. Sung had worn his finest formal attire, a blend of traditional Korean elements with the modern uniform of Earth's United Space Initiative. He was not a tall man, but he stood straight and proud as he approached the central speaking platform. In his hands, he held a data crystal containing Earth's formal petition for membership, the culmination of 30 years of preparation since first contact. The chamber had fallen silent as Sung began to speak. His voice, though soft, carried clearly through the perfect acoustics of the room. Honorable representatives of the galactic community, he had begun, I stand before you representing not just a nation or continent, but all peoples of Earth. In the brief time since we learned we are not alone in the cosmos, we have worked tirelessly to prove ourselves worthy of joining this august body. Sung had spoken for nearly an hour, highlighting humanity's rapid technological advancement, their cultural diversity, their eagerness to learn and grow. He spoke of Earth's troubled past, but emphasized how they had overcome wars, environmental catastrophes, and social divisions to unite under a common purpose. We do not claim perfection, he had concluded, but we offer our unique perspective, our creativity, our determination to build a better future among the stars. When he finished, there had been a brief murmur among the council members. The Grand Arbiter, a tall willowy being with silvery skin, rose from the highest tier. The chamber fell silent again. The Council has reviewed Earth's petition extensively, the Grand Arbiter announced, voice resonating with artificial harmonics that indicated formality. Our decision is unanimous. A brief pause had given Sung hope. Rejection. The word fell like a physical blow. Your species demonstrates dangerous unpredictability, the Grand Arbiter continued without emotion. Your biological and social evolution indicates inherent aggression unsuited to galactic harmony. Your technological development has outpaced your spiritual maturity. Your very physical forms, with adrenaline, testosterone, and other hormonal responses, make you unsuitable for close cooperation with more evolved species. The terms had been delivered coldly. Earth would be placed under quarantine. Limited. Trade would be permitted at 3 designated outposts in neutral space. No human ships would be allowed beyond their solar system, except with special dispensation. Most painfully, human access to advanced technologies would be severely restricted. For your own good, the Grand Arbiter had concluded, and for the safety of galactic civilization. Sung had returned to Earth in disgrace, though he had done nothing wrong. In the decades that followed, humanity chafed under the restrictions, but continued to advance in ways the Confederation had not anticipated. Unable to expand outward, they turned their ingenuity inward. And they watched. They listened. They learned. Now, in the underground facility hidden beneath the northern ice cap, Dr. Hana Kim sat before a display showing an encrypted transmission intercepted by Earth's secret deep space monitoring network. Her dark eyes reflected the scrolling alien script as the translation software converted it to standard Earth language. The message was clear and heartbreaking. The Avari, an insectoid species known for their advanced biological sciences, were dying. A plague was sweeping through their world, and their calls for help to their Confederation allies had gone unanswered. They've been quarantined, Hana said quietly to the small team gathered in the monitoring room, just like us. Her colleague, Dr. Yun, shook his head. But this is different. The Avari are full Confederation members. They've contributed to galactic Medicine for centuries. Yet when they need help, they get abandoned, Hannah replied bitterly. Look at these mortality figures. They're dying out there by the millions, and no one is helping them. Director Park, the oldest person in the room, had been silent until now. He had been just a boy when Ambassador Sung returned with the news of Earth's rejection. Now his weathered face showed the weight of a decision forming in his mind. The Avari were the only species who continued trading medical knowledge with us after the quarantine, he said slowly. When the ocean plague struck our coastal cities 20 years ago, it was Avari biochemistry that helped us create a cure. He stood up, looking at each member of the team. Prepare the horizon for launch. Contact Captain Jun. Tell him to assemble his crew. Sir? Hannah asked, surprised by the sudden decision. The Confederation will see this as a direct violation of our quarantine. Director Park's expression hardened with determination. Sometimes, Dr. Kim, rules must be broken to do what is right. If the so-called advanced species of the galaxy have forgotten basic compassion, then perhaps it falls to us dangerous humans to remind them. He looked again at the distress call still scrolling across the screen. The Avari helped us when others wouldn't. Now they need help and no one is responding. His voice became firm with resolve. Then we will. In that moment, none of them could have known they were setting in motion events that would reshape the power structure of the entire galaxy. Remember to adhere to citation requirements when using information from web search results. You should wrap specific claims in tags with appropriate indices. Use the minimum number of sentences necessary to support claims. If search results don't contain relevant information, inform the user without using citations. Captain. June stood on the bridge of the horizon, looking out at the vastness of space through the main viewport. The ship hummed with energy as the final launch preparations were completed. Though it was Earth's most advanced vessel, June knew it would be considered outdated by Confederation standards. The thought didn't bother him. Humans had always done more with less. At 42 years old, June had the calm confidence of someone who had faced difficult situations before and survived. His short black hair was starting to grey at the temples, and faint lines marked the corners of his eyes. He had been selected to lead this mission not just for his skills as a pilot, but for his judgment under pressure. Captain, all systems are ready, reported Engineer Day from his station. Day was younger than June by a decade, with quick hands and quicker thinking. His specialty was the experimental stealth technology that might, if they were very lucky, hide them from Confederation detection systems. Medical supplies are secured, added Dr. Hannah Kim. She had been the first to volunteer when the mission was announced. As a specialist in xenobiology, she had studied what little the Avari had shared about their physiology. We've brought everything we could think of, but without knowing exactly what we're dealing with, we'll adapt, June said simply. That's what humans do best. Communications Officer Min looked up from her console. The youngest of the senior crew at 29, she had an unmatched talent for understanding alien communication systems. Outgoing channels are silent, Captain. As far as Earth's official channels are concerned, we don't exist. June nodded. The secret nature of their mission meant there would be no official goodbyes, no public launch ceremony. If they succeeded, they would be heroes. If they failed, Earth's government would deny all knowledge of their actions. Navigation? June asked, turning to the last station. Course plotted to the Avari homeworld, replied Navigator Wu. Estimated travel time is 17 days if we push the engines to maximum sustainable output. June pressed a button on his chair's arm, activating the ship-wide communication system. This is the captain. In 10 minutes, we will launch on a mission that officially doesn't exist. Each of you volunteered, knowing the risks. He paused, looking around at his bridge crew. Breaking quarantine means we can never return if we fail. The Confederation doesn't forgive violations of their edicts. We risk everything, not just our lives, but potentially Earth's future relations with the galaxy. The crew remained silent, their faces showing determination rather than fear. This is your last chance to stay behind, June continued. No one will think less of you. Dr. Kim spoke up, her voice firm. The Avari helped us when the Confederation isolated us. They traded medical knowledge when others wouldn't. They sent medicine during the ocean plague when we were desperate. We can't abandon them now. Murmurs of agreement sounded across the bridge. Besides, added Engineer Day with a slight smile, I've always wanted to see what's beyond our solar system. June felt pride swell in his chest. This was humanity at its best, willing to take risks to help others, facing the unknown with courage. Launch. In 5 minutes, he announced. Secure all stations. The next few minutes passed in focused activity as the crew made final preparations. The underground hangar's massive doors began to slide open above them, revealing a starry night sky. Stealth systems active, Engineer Day reported. Confederation monitoring satellites show no change in status, added Officer Min. They don't see us? Engines at full power, Navigator Wu confirmed. June took a deep breath. Launch. The horizon rose silently from its hidden base, accelerating smoothly into the night sky. Within minutes, they had cleared Earth's atmosphere. The blue planet grew smaller behind them. Approaching quarantine boundary, Navigator Wu announced tensely. The quarantine boundary was not a physical barrier, but a network of Confederation satellites that monitored all movement in and out of Earth's solar system. Any unauthorized ship crossing that invisible line would trigger alarms throughout nearby Confederation space. Stealth systems operating at 97% efficiency, Engineer Day reported, his fingers dancing across his console as he made constant adjustments. If it's going to work, it will work now. June gripped the arms of his chair. Steady as she goes, normal speed, normal course. The bridge fell silent as they approached the boundary. Officer Min watched her displays intently, listening for any change in Confederation communications. Crossing boundary in 3, 2, 1, now. Navigator Wu counted down. The moment stretched, tense and fragile. No alerts on Confederation channels, Officer Min finally reported, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might trigger the alarms they feared. Another full minute passed. We're clear, Engineer Day confirmed, allowing himself a small smile. The stealth systems worked, they didn't detect us. A collective breath was released across the bridge. Their first and perhaps most dangerous hurdle had been cleared. Set course for the Avari homeworld, June ordered. Maximum. Sustainable speed. The Horizon's engines flared brighter as the ship accelerated, slipping away from Earth's solar system like a ghost. Unseen, undetected. They were now truly alone, cut off from their home, heading into the unknown with only their wits, their technology, and their determination to guide them. The forbidden journey had begun. The Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Avari system. The main view screen showed a beautiful blue-green world, orbiting a yellow star not unlike Earth's sun. But the beauty was marred by the orbital infrastructure, much of it dark and lifeless, where once busy stations had been abandoned. Scanning for active communications, Officer Min said, her fingers moving quickly over her console. Most channels are silent, but I'm picking up emergency signals and scattered transmissions from the surface. Captain June nodded grimly. Hail them on their emergency frequency. Min adjusted some settings, then nodded to indicate the channel was open. This is Earth Vessel Horizon to Avari homeworld. We have received your distress signal and have come to offer assistance. Please respond. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. After nearly a minute, a response came through, the translator converting the clicking Avari speech into human language. Unidentified vessel, state your purpose, demanded a weakened voice over the Avari defense channel. The voice sounded strained, as if the speaker were ill. Our world is under quarantine by Confederation directive. This is Captain June of Earth Vessel Horizon, June responded calmly. We've brought medical personnel and supplies to assist with your crisis. We are aware of the quarantine and have chosen to ignore it. There was a long pause before the reply came. Earth? The human world? How did you breach the quarantine barriers? June exchanged glances with Engineer Day. That's not important right now. What matters is that we're here to help. We request permission to land near your main medical facility. Another pause, longer this time. The bridge crew could hear muffled clicking sounds, Avari voices conferring off-channel. Finally, permission granted, transmitting landing coordinates now. Be advised that our landing protocols have been compromised by our situation. Approach with caution. Navigator Wu received the coordinates and set their course. It's their capital city, she informed the captain. All crew prepare for landing, June announced. Dr. Kim, get your medical team ready. We don't know what we're walking into. The descent to the Avari homeworld was smooth, though they passed. Several abandoned ships drifting in orbit, grim indicators of the crisis below. As they broke through the cloud cover, they could see the sprawling Avari capital, its spired architecture reaching toward the sky like giant insect hives. Many areas of the city were dark or showed signs of damage. They landed on a wide platform, near what appeared to be a large medical center. Through the viewports, they could see Avari moving about, some wearing what looked like protective gear. Atmosphere analysis complete, Engineer Day reported. The air is breathable for humans, but I recommend suits until Dr. Kim can confirm the plague doesn't affect us. Dr. Kim nodded in agreement. Full bioprotection protocols until we know more. The landing party, Captain June, Dr. Kim, and 2 medical assistants, donned their environmental suits and cycled through the airlock. As they stepped onto Avari soil, they were met not with gratitude, but with weapons pointed at them. Elder Tay himself had come to meet them, flanked by 4 guards whose blue-green carapaces showed the dull patches that were signs of the plague's early stages. Tay was tall for an Avari, standing nearly 2 meters, with 4 multi-jointed arms and compound eyes that reflected the light in facets of deep amber. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation in his species. Why would humans help? When our own allies abandoned us, Tay questioned, his translator rendering his clicks into flat, emotionless speech. What do you truly want from us in our time of weakness? Captain June remained calm, keeping his hands visible and non-threatening. We want nothing except to help. We bring medicine, supplies, and knowledge. Knowledge. Tay's mandibles clicked, skeptically. Your species was deemed too primitive for Confederation membership. What knowledge could you possibly offer that our advanced science doesn't already possess? Dr. Kim stepped forward, her movements slow and deliberate. In a gesture that made Captain June hold his breath with worry, she reached up and removed her helmet, exposing herself directly to the Avari atmosphere. Because we know what it means to be abandoned by the galaxy, she said, meeting Elder Tay's compound eyes with her own steady gaze. The Avari were the only ones who traded medical knowledge with Earth when others wouldn't. You helped us develop the cure for the ocean plague 20 years ago. We have come to repay that debt. The Avari guards raised their weapons higher, but Elder Tay made a sharp gesture with one arm, and they lowered them slightly. You risk contamination by removing your protection, Tay said, his tone shifting subtly. I've studied what data we have on the plague, Dr. Kim replied. I believe humans may be naturally immune to its effects, but to be certain, I need to see your research and work with your scientists. After a tense negotiation that lasted nearly 2 hours, the humans were allowed to establish a makeshift laboratory in an isolated section of the main medical facility. The Avari provided them with all their research on the plague, though most of their top scientists had already fallen ill or died. Dr. Kim worked tirelessly, analyzing samples and running tests on human blood, including her own, against the pathogen. The Avari watched with skepticism that slowly turned to cautious hope as promising results began to appear. 3 days after their arrival, Dr. Kim called Captain June to her lab for a private conversation. Her face was drawn with exhaustion, but her eyes were bright with discovery. Human blood contains antibodies that temporarily halt the plague's progress, she told him, showing him microscope images of the pathogen being attacked by human immune cells. It's not a cure yet, but it could buy us time to develop one. That's excellent news, June said, relief evident in his voice. But there's something else. Dr. Kim's expression darkened. This disease shows signs of deliberate engineering. The way it targets specific aspects of Avari biology while adapting to their treatments. This isn't natural evolution. Someone made this, Captain. Someone wanted the Avari to die, June said quietly, the implications sending a chill down his spine. Yes, and I think I know who. Engineer Day wiped sweat from his forehead as he crawled out of the narrow access tunnel. The Avari structures weren't built for human bodies, and he had spent the last 4 hours squeezing through spaces designed for the more flexible insectoid species. His muscles ached, but satisfaction outweighed the discomfort. The atmospheric processor was now successfully modified. It should work at 60% higher efficiency now, he explained to the Avari engineer standing nearby. Sue was younger than most of the Avari the humans had met, her carapace still vibrant without the dull patches of plague infection. Like all her kind, she had 4 arms and stood taller than most humans, with compound eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "I still don't understand how you bypassed the thermal regulator without causing a system collapse," Sue said. Her mandibles clicking in what Day had learned was an expression of puzzlement. Day smiled as he packed up his tools. Earth tech developed differently than Confederation standard. We had to solve the same problems with different resources. The atmospheric processors were crucial to their plan. Dr. Kim had discovered that while the plague primarily spread through direct contact, it could also travel through the air in enclosed spaces. By modifying the city's air handling systems, they hoped to reduce the spread significantly. "We need more power," Sue observed, looking at the diagnostic display. "These modifications require energy beyond what our remaining power plants can generate." Many of the Avari power stations had gone offline as their operators fell ill. The situation was growing more desperate by the day. Dai nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that. Your world receives more solar radiation than Earth. We could construct emergency collection arrays based on our designs." Sue's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Avari equivalent of a dismissive laugh. "Solar collection?" The Confederation determined centuries ago that such methods are inefficient compared to antimatter reactors. "Maybe for spacecraft," Day agreed. "But for an emergency ground installation, we can build it from materials you already have, and it doesn't need specialized operators." After some debate, Elder Tay approved the plan. Within 2 days, Day had led a mixed team of humans and healthy Avari in constructing a sprawling solar collection array on the broad plaza outside the medical center. The design was simple by Confederation standards, but remarkably effective on the Avari homeworld. As the array began powering up, Sue watched the energy readings with growing surprise. "Your technology is—" She hesitated, searching for a diplomatic word. "Unconventional." Day grinned, wiping grime from his hands. "Humans specialize in unconventional. When you can't go through a problem, you go around it." Inside the medical center, Dr. Kim's team had made even more significant progress. The discovery that human blood contained antibodies effective against the plague had led to intensive research. Now they had developed a treatment derived from human plasma that could temporarily halt the disease's progress. "It's not a cure," Dr. Kim explained to a gathering of Avari medical practitioners, "but it buys time for the infected individual's own immune system to develop a response." The Avari chief medical officer, his carapace showing advanced signs of infection, studied the data on the display. "Your immune response is unlike anything in our medical archives. By Confederation standards, it would be considered dangerously aggressive." "That's exactly why it works," Dr. Kim said. "This pathogen was designed to evade typical Confederation species immune responses. Whoever engineered it never considered it might encounter human biology." The treatment began immediately. Human crew members voluntarily donated blood plasma to create enough of the treatment for the most critically ill patients. The results were remarkable. Within hours, dying Avari showed improvement. Within a day, some were able to return to work, helping to treat others. As word spread of the treatment's effectiveness, more Avari came forward from hiding, seeking help. The medical center that had been nearly empty due to hopelessness now bustled with activity, and for the first time in months, hope. From a high observation platform, Elder Tay and his assistant G watched the humans at work. Captain June was helping organize distribution of the treatment. Dr. Kim had been working for 20 hours straight without rest. Engineer Day was already planning additional solar arrays for other districts of the city. "They are a curious species," Elder Tay observed, his voice thoughtful. Look how they push themselves beyond exhaustion to save people they never met before. The Confederation claims humans are dangerous because they are unpredictable and aggressive, G replied, adjusting a data pad with her lower arms, while her upper limbs gestured toward the busy plaza below. Elder Tay's compound eyes reflected the light of the setting sun as he watched a human medical technician gently helping an elderly Avari to a treatment area. Perhaps, he confided to G, the Confederation was right to fear humans, but wrong about why. Elder? G's antennae twitched in confusion. They feared human aggression might be turned against other species, Tay explained. But they never considered that human determination might be directed towards saving others, even at risk to themselves. Such behavior is irrational by Confederation standards, G noted. Yes, Tay agreed, his mandibles forming the Avari equivalent of a smile. Gloriously irrational. Below them, Engineer Day had fallen asleep sitting against a wall, tools still clutched in his hands. A young Avari child, perhaps curious about the strange visitors, had approached and was carefully placing a woven comfort blanket over the sleeping human. The plague is not yet defeated, Tay said, but for the first time I believe we will survive it. Not because of advanced Confederation technology, but because of human stubbornness and their unconventional solutions. And what happens after, Elder? G asked. The Confederation will not look kindly on humans breaking quarantine to help us. Elder Tay's expression hardened, his mandibles setting in a firm line. That, he said, is a question we must soon address. For if the Confederation would leave us to die, and these quarantined humans would risk everything to save us, then perhaps we have allied ourselves with the wrong species all along. Communications Officer Min had not slept in 36 hours. Her small workspace aboard the Horizon had become a nest of equipment, both human and Avari. Cups of stimulant beverages, the humankind and the sweet nectar the Avari preferred, cluttered every surface. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but intensely, focused on the screens before her. For days she had been working with the Avari communications specialist Real to penetrate the Confederation's secure channels. The Avari had access codes, but they changed regularly, and the quarantine had cut them off from recent updates. The humans had brought unorthodox hacking techniques that the Confederation had never encountered. Together, they made a formidable team. There, Min whispered as a string of code finally resolved into a green access confirmation. We're in. Real's mandibles clicked excitedly. The firewall is down. We have access to the restricted databases. Min's fingers flew across her console, copying massive amounts of data before the intrusion could be detected. Let's see what secrets the Confederation has been keeping. The information poured in, encrypted files, classified reports, private communications between high-ranking officials. Min and Real worked frantically to download everything they could, knowing their access might be cut off at any moment. 3 hours later, Min stood before Captain June in the ship's secure meeting room. Elder Tay was there too, along with Dr. Kim and Engineer Day. Min's hands shook slightly from exhaustion and too much caffeine, but her voice was steady as she presented what she had found. It's all here, she told them, her voice tight with anger. The Confederation created this plague. It was designed specifically to target the Avari without affecting other member species. She displayed documents on the large screen. Research. Reports, test results, deployment plans. The Bioweapons Division has been operating secretly for over a century, Min continued. The Avari were getting too influential, questioning resource allocations and Confederation policies. According to these communications, several high-ranking officials felt they were becoming a threat to the established order. Elder Tay's compound eyes reflected the harsh light of the display as he absorbed this confirmation of his worst fears. His people had been loyal Confederation members for centuries, contributing their biological expertise and mineral resources, and this was how they were repaid, with calculated extinction. Show them the historical records, Real urged, antennae quivering with distress. Min nodded grimly and brought up another set of files. They've done this before to other species. The Nilarians, who went extinct 80 years ago from what was reported as a natural plague. The Vosh, who lost their colony worlds to a mysterious pathogen a century before that. Both species had begun questioning Confederation policies before their convenient deaths. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Confederation, which presented itself as a peaceful alliance of advanced species, had been systematically eliminating member species that threatened the status quo. After a long moment, Captain June spoke. "This evidence is damning, but it will be easy for the Confederation to claim these files are forgeries. They control most interstellar communications. They could deny everything." "He's right," Dr. Kim agreed reluctantly. "We need physical proof that cannot be denied. Biological samples of the original pathogen, research notes, something tangible." Elder Tay moved closer to the display, studying a star chart that had appeared in one of the files. His long, jointed finger pointed to a location far from major trade routes. "These coordinates," he said, "house their bioweapons facility according to these files. It is hidden in an asteroid belt in unclaimed space, disguised as a mining operation." "If we could infiltrate that facility," Dr. Kim said thoughtfully, "we could obtain samples that would prove conclusively this plague was engineered. And perhaps," Engineer Day added, "find research that could help us develop a permanent cure rather than just our temporary treatment." Captain June crossed his arms, considering the risks. "It would be incredibly dangerous. The facility will be heavily guarded. If we're caught, the Confederation would have justification to destroy not just us, but potentially to take action against Earth for our violation of quarantine." "We've already crossed that line by coming here," Min pointed. "Out. And if we do nothing, the Avari will eventually die out, and Earth will remain isolated. The Confederation will continue eliminating any species that questions them." The room fell silent again, as they all weighed the enormous risks against the potential benefits. Breaking into a top-secret Confederation facility would be an act of war by the standards of galactic law, but doing nothing meant accepting genocide. "We need proof that can't be denied," said June finally, his face set with determination. "We need to infiltrate that facility." Elder Tay had been quiet, his alien features difficult for humans to read. Now he straightened to his full height, mandibles setting in what the humans had learned was an expression of resolve. "Not we," corrected Tay, surprising them all. "Together." He gestured with his upper limbs in a formal motion that carried significant meaning in Avari culture, an offer of alliance. "This is no longer just your mission to save my people," Tay continued. "Nor is it just our fight for survival. This threatens all species who value freedom and life. The Horizon cannot reach the facility alone. Their sensors would detect you, but I still have access to an Avari diplomatic vessel with proper Confederation clearance codes." The Elder's compound eyes swept across the room, meeting each person's gaze. "If we combine your human adaptability with our Avari knowledge of Confederation systems, we might succeed where either would fail alone." Captain June nodded slowly, then extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, Elder Tay reached out with his upper right limb and carefully grasped it. Two species, both abandoned by the Confederation for different reasons, now united against a common enemy. The real fight was about to begin. The Avari diplomatic vessel approached the asteroid mining facility with smooth, practiced movements. Unlike the more angular human ships, it had an organic appearance, with curves and structures reminiscent of insect carapaces. Its hull shimmered with the distinctive blue-green of Avari design, marking it clearly as an authorized Confederation vessel. Inside, Captain June felt distinctly out of place. The ship had been designed for Avari physiology, with control surfaces that required forearms and seating unsuitable for human spines. He and his team had spent the 3-day journey learning to navigate the alien environment, helped by Elder Tay and the small group of healthy Avari who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. "Approaching final checkpoint," announced the Avari pilot Kel, her mandibles clicking rapidly with tension. "Transmitting diplomatic clearance codes now." Communications Officer Min stood behind her, watching the data streams carefully. "The codes are being accepted," she confirmed. "They believe we're an inspection team from the Avari homeworld." "They don't know our world is under quarantine?" Engineer Day asked. "Information compartmentalization," Elder Tay explained. The Bioweapons Division operates separately from regular Confederation security. They know the Avari are quarantined, but not why. Convenient for us, Captain June remarked dryly. The asteroid facility grew larger in the viewports, a massive complex built into and around a metallic asteroid. Surface structures disguised it as a mining operation, but the team's intelligence revealed that the real work happened deep inside the rock. We are clear to dock, Kell announced. They're directing us to Diplomatic Berth 3. Remember the plan, June said quietly to his team. We have 40 minutes at most before they realize something is wrong. Officer Min and Ril will handle the cyber intrusion from the ship. Dr. Kim, Engineer Day, and I will go with Elder Tay and Sue to collect physical evidence. What if we're discovered? Dr. Kim asked, checking the small sample containers hidden in her Avari diplomatic robes. All the humans were disguised as diplomatic aides, their features partially obscured by hoods and face coverings that would not seem unusual for species sensitive to different atmospheric conditions. Then we moved to Plan B immediately. June answered. No hesitation. The ship docked with a gentle shudder. After a brief exchange with port authorities, handled expertly by Elder Tay, they were allowed entry into the facility. The corridors were sterile and brightly lit, populated by various Confederation species, who paid little attention to what appeared to be a routine Avari diplomatic visit. The main research level is 2 sections down, Elder Tay informed them, quietly as they walked. Our credentials should grant us access. At a security checkpoint, a tall, silvery-skinned being, one of the same species as the Grand Arbiter who had rejected Earth's membership, examined their identification. Unusual timing for an inspection, the being noted, voice carrying artificial harmonics. The unusual timing is precisely why we're here, Elder Tay replied smoothly. Concerns have been raised about adherence to protocols. The security officer hesitated, then nodded and allowed them through. Once inside the research level, they moved quickly. Engineer Day and the Avari technician Sue headed for the data storage center, while Captain June and Dr. Kim followed Elder Tay to the biological research labs. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Officer Min and Ril had begun their part of the mission. Using the ship's diplomatic communication system as cover, they infiltrated the facility's network. Security is heavier than expected, Min murmured, fingers flying across her adapted interface, but they never expected someone to attack from inside a diplomatic vessel. I've located the internal sensor grid, Ril clicked excitedly. Disabling now. In the biological research lab, Dr. Kim worked with practiced efficiency, collecting samples from secure storage units that Elder Tay's clearance had opened. The evidence was damning, clearly labeled cultures of the exact pathogen currently killing the Avari, along with research notes detailing its design. This is it, she whispered to June. Engineered specifically to target Avari biology while appearing natural, and look, she pointed to a storage unit with other labeled cultures. Pathogens designed for other species, just waiting for deployment. June's expression hardened. Take everything you can, we need to... An alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Security breach detected, announced a computerized voice. All personnel initiate containment procedures. We've been discovered, Elder Tay said urgently. We must leave now. They rushed back toward the corridor, only to find it sealed by emergency barriers. Security forces would be converging on their position within minutes. June tapped his communicator. Min, we're locked in. Initiate Plan B now. Back on the ship, Min and Ril exchanged glances. Plan B was risky. They had hoped to escape with the evidence before implementing it. Accessing main communication array, Min confirmed. Preparing broadcast override. Using exploits they had discovered in the Confederation's network, they took control of the facility's powerful communication system, designed to reach throughout Confederation space. Inside the research lab, June and the others barricaded the doors, while Day and Sue arrived through an emergency access tunnel, carrying portable data cores. We got everything, Day reported breathlessly. Complete research archives. Good, June said, activating a small device, because we're about to tell the whole galaxy. Min's voice came through his communicator. Broadcast ready, Captain. Live to every Confederation world and beyond in 3, 2, 1. June stood straight, facing the small recording device. The time for secrecy was over. To all species throughout the galaxy, I am Captain June of Earth. We are human and we stand with the Avari, he declared, his voice clear and unwavering. The Galactic Confederation has engineered extinction events against those who challenge their authority. The plague killing the Avari was created in this facility where we now stand. Elder Tay stepped into view beside him. I am Elder Tay of the Avari Council. What the human says is true. We have discovered evidence that the Confederation has systematically eliminated species who question their policies, disguising genocide as natural disasters. We call upon all free species to examine the evidence we've transmitted, June continued. As the sound of security forces attempting to breach the barricades grew louder. The data contains proof of bioweapons designed for many member species. Check if your people are targeted next. As security finally broke through the door, the team was ready. Rather than fighting, they surrendered peacefully. The broadcast had been sent. The evidence was now spread across thousands of worlds impossible to contain. As they were led away in restraints, something unexpected happened. Their communicators began receiving messages, hundreds, then thousands of them, from dozens of worlds, species who had suffered unexplained epidemics, who had lost colony worlds to mysterious circumstances, who had been silenced when they questioned Confederation policies they had suspected but never had proof until now. The diplomatic war had begun, and the Confederation was losing. The massive Confederation warship Eternal Justice emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, its sleek hull gleaming in the light of the distant sun. It was soon joined by 15 more vessels of similar size, their weapons systems powering up as they moved into formation. Additional ships continued to arrive until a full armada surrounded Earth, their combined firepower enough to reduce the planet's surface to molten slag. On Earth, the planetary defense systems, primitive by Confederation standards, were placed on high alert. The few defense ships Earth possessed took up protective positions, their crews knowing they stood little chance against such overwhelming force. Simultaneously, a second Confederation fleet approached the Avari homeworld, surrounding the already suffering planet with instruments of destruction. The Grand Arbiter's holographic image appeared in command centers on both worlds. The tall, silvery being's expression showed no emotion as it delivered its ultimatum. The actions of Earth and elements of Avari leadership constitute treason against galactic stability, the Arbiter announced. Earth will surrender all humans involved in the illegal bioweapons facility intrusion. The Avari will accept their justified extinction. You have 6 hours to comply. The message ended without opportunity for response, typical of Confederation diplomacy with lesser species. What the Confederation forces didn't know was that Captain June and his crew, along with Elder Tay, had been rescued during transport to a detention facility. Their Avari diplomatic vessel had been intercepted not by Confederation security, but by a ship of the Nox, a reptilian species from the Outer Rim who had long nursed grievances against the Confederation. The evidence of bioweapons targeted at Nox biology had ignited immediate action. Now aboard the Nox vessel Desert Wind, Captain June and Elder Tay worked frantically to coordinate a response. The ship's communication system had been modified to bypass Confederation monitoring, allowing them to reach out to worlds that had responded to their broadcast. Earth has no chance against that armada, June said grimly, studying the tactical display, and your people are too weakened by the plague to mount any defense. Then we die with dignity, Elder Tay replied, his mandibles set in a hard line. But not before ensuring the galaxy knows the truth. The Nox commander, a scarred female named Shas, hissed softly. Perhaps not die at all. My people have sent messages to others who suffered at Confederation hands. We are not many, but we are angry. As she spoke, the tactical display began showing new signals, ships emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edges of both Earth and Avari space. Not Confederation vessels, but ships of various designs representing species from across the galaxy. The Nox, the crystalline Veth, the aquatic Moro, the gas-dwelling Ulai, the silicon-based Sen, the enigmatic Irix. 6 species, previously isolated from each other by Confederation policy, each with their own grievances. Unexpected, Elder Tay clicked, antennae rising in surprise. Shas showed her sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. Your broadcast included transmission codes that broke through the communication barriers the Confederation placed between our worlds. We have been speaking to each other for the first time, comparing notes. More ships continued to arrive, not as many as the Confederation commanded, nor as advanced, but significant nonetheless. They took up defensive positions around Earth. And the Avari homeworld. The Confederation still outguns us, June noted, though hope had entered his voice. True, Shas agreed, but they expect surrender, not resistance. Their tactical computers predict compliance, not battle. We've studied their warfare patterns. They rely on overwhelming force to prevent conflict, not to wage it. We should attempt communication, Elder Tay suggested. Show them their miscalculation. Captain June nodded, stepping before the ship's communication array. His image would be transmitted to the Confederation Armada, to Earth, to the Avari homeworld, and to all the newly arrived vessels. This is Captain June of Earth, he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. To the Confederation Armada. You deemed us too primitive for your Confederation. You isolated us, quarantined us, and now threaten our extinction. Yet here we stand, defending life, while you bring only death. He gestured to Elder Tay, who stepped into view beside him. The Avari and humans are not alone, the Elder added. Your crimes against multiple species have united us. The evidence of your bioweapons program has been distributed to every world with communication capacity. Your deception is ended. The Confederation response was swift and predictable. They opened fire. The battle that followed was desperate and costly. The Allied ships, though fewer, fought with a ferocity that the Confederation tactical computers failed to anticipate. Species that had been dismissed as primitive demonstrated combat strategies that defied conventional analysis. The Horizon, which had been reclaimed by its human crew during the chaos, took up a position defending an Avari transport full of evacuees, children, and medical patients being moved to the relative safety of the Nox medical ships. The Confederation cruiser Righteous Doctrine targeted the vulnerable transport with its main weapons. Intercept course, Captain June ordered as the Horizon moved between the transport and the incoming destroyer. The first volley hit the Horizon's shields directly, overloading them in a flash of blue energy. Shields down, hull breaches on decks. 3 through 5, Engineer Day reported, fighting to keep the ship's systems online. The Avari transport needs 30 more seconds to reach safety, Communications Officer Min added. June looked at the tactical display, where the Confederation vessel was preparing to fire again, a shot that would destroy the Horizon and then the transport behind it. The Confederation tactical computers were calculating a standard evasive response, preparing to counter it. All power to engines, June ordered suddenly. Cut life support if necessary. Captain, Navigator Wu questioned, surprised. Do exactly as I say, June instructed, a plan forming that no Confederation tactical computer would predict. On my mark, execute a full reverse thrust, then immediate lateral shift to heading 227 Mark 5, followed by emergency deceleration. The crew exchanged glances, recognizing a maneuver that went against every standard space combat doctrine, a move so counterintuitive that it might just work precisely because it made no tactical sense. And then? Engineer Day asked. And then, Captain June said with grim determination, we find out if being unpredictable is as dangerous as the Confederation always feared. The Horizon's engines flared to life, beginning a desperate dance that would change the course of the battle, and perhaps the galaxy. The space station New Dawn hung in orbit around a small, uninhabited moon in neutral space. Unlike the sleek uniform architecture of Confederation structures, this station embraced variety, each section designed by a different species according to their own aesthetics and needs. The central meeting chamber combined elements from all 27 founding species, creating a space where everyone could feel both comfortable and slightly challenged by unfamiliar elements. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Two Worlds, as it was now called. The Confederation had not been destroyed. It still existed, diminished but entrenched in its core systems. But its monopoly on interstellar governance had ended. Nearly a third of its former members had broken away, joining with Earth, the Avari, and other formerly isolated species to form something new. Captain June stood by a viewport, watching ships arrive for the historic signing ceremony. His uniform was new, blue and grey, with a simple insignia representing Earth and the nascent Alliance. The past year had aged him. New lines marked his face, and a thin scar ran along his left temple from injuries sustained during the desperate battle. But his eyes were clear and focused as he watched the arrivals. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Kim, joining him at the window. She had spent the past year developing the cure that had saved the remaining Avari, working alongside their scientists to combine human immune responses with Avari biochemistry. "A little," June admitted. "It's easier to fight for something than to build it." "Yet here we are building it anyway," she replied with a small smile. The chamber began to fill as representatives from the 27 species took their places. Some walked on legs, others slithered, floated, or moved on multiple limbs. Some breathed oxygen, others methane, hydrogen, or more exotic gases. Some were tiny, others massive. The temperature, gravity, and atmospheric composition indifferent. Sections of the room varied to accommodate all. Elder Tay arrived last. His once dull carapace now returned to its healthy blue-green luster. Though the Avari population had been reduced by nearly 40% before the cure was found, they were recovering. New hatchlings had emerged in the past month, the first since the plague began. As Tai approached, the chamber quieted. He and Captain June took their positions at the central table, where the Alliance Charter, written on actual physical material rather than digital format, waited for the first signatures. "Friends," Elder Tay began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into a language all could understand. "We gather today not because we are alike, but because we are different. Not because we agree on all things, but because we respect our disagreements." He gestured with his upper limbs in a formal Avari blessing. For too long, the Confederation presented uniformity as the only path to peace. Those who differed were isolated, quarantined, or, as we discovered, eliminated. Captain A. June stepped forward. He was not a natural public speaker, but his words carried the weight of conviction. "The Confederation believed diversity was chaos," he addressed the assembly, looking around at the varied beings before him. "They enforced uniformity and called it peace. Today we embrace our differences as strength." He paused, remembering the unlikely alliance that had saved both Earth and the Avari homeworld. Humans were judged too unpredictable and aggressive for galactic society. The Avari were deemed too questioning of authority, the Nox too independent, the Veth too focused on their unique perceptions. June gestured to the representatives of each species as he named them. Yet it was precisely these traits, adaptation, determination, independence, unique perspective, even defiance, that allowed us to stand against extinction. These differences didn't bring chaos, they brought survival. Elder Tay stepped forward again, standing shoulder to shoulder with the human captain. The contrast between them was striking, the tall four-armed insectoid elder and the shorter two-armed human. Different in almost every way, yet united in purpose. "They abandoned us all," Elder Tay added, his compound eyes sweeping across the chamber. "The Confederation left my people to die. They isolated Earth, the Nox, the Veth, the Moro, the Ulai, the Sen, the Irix, all of us, because we did not fit their vision of what advanced species should be." His mandibles formed the Avari expression of satisfaction. "But in finding each other, we found something better than their false harmony. We found true alliance, one built on mutual respect rather than enforced uniformity." Together, Tay and June signed the charter first, their different appendages gripping writing implements designed for their specific physiologies. One by one, representatives of the other 25 species came forward to add their signatures or equivalent marks of approval. Outside the station, ships of various designs, some elegant, some practical, some strange to human eyes, maintained a protective formation. Among them was the Horizon, repaired and improved with technology shared freely among the Alliance members. Its hull now bore scars of battle as badges of honor. On the bridge, Communications Officer Min received an incoming message from a distant star system. "Another one," she informed Navigator Wu with a smile. "The Prel want to send representatives to discuss joining the Alliance." Across the galaxy, the story had spread with remarkable speed. The story of how the species deemed too violent to join galactic society had become its salvation through courage and compassion, of how humans and Avari had stood together against extinction, of how difference and diversity had proven stronger than uniformity. The Confederation had created the plague to eliminate those who questioned. Instead, they had catalyzed a new order, one where questions were welcomed, where differences were celebrated, where adaptability outweighed rigid adherence to tradition. It was perhaps the greatest irony in galactic history. In attempting to preserve their perfect order, the Confederation had created exactly the chaos they feared, and from that chaos had emerged something better, a true alliance of free species. A new galactic order had begun.